Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Blushing Nerd Tarot. So, we're here today for episode 3 of the Tarot Nerd Outs, and we are going to cover the Emperor today. So, card number 4, the Major Arcana. And I have some notes after going through several different resources to find some additional information on the card. Yeah, without further ado, let's get right into it. So, Emperor, first number 4. Number 4 has a lot of significance. Typically we'll start out by thinking of the number 4 as being something regarding stability. That's often what we think of with the fours. And here in this card in the imagery, we do have 4 ram's heads depicted here on the throne. So just additional way of getting that number in there. We have lots of different symbols in here and lots of different things to cover. But if we're just talking about um, just the basics, going through some keywords from some different sources, we have the Tarot Bible that I'm including here, Sarah Bartlett's book. I have Benabel Wen's book as well. Um, so holistic tarot, that is. So, and then several other resources that either have, and I've mentioned the one big giant book before called The Tarot. It's a relatively new book that is actually a collection of different books over the years, going way back, and has a lot of different great information in it. So, um, some of these keywords are authority, government, paternity. Those are some of the keywords from Benabel Wen's book. Then we have power, father figure, leadership, power of reason, insensitivity to others, assertive, dogmatic thinking, and rules. A sense for the rules and the that sort of overarching. And we're talking about rules. I think in this case, obviously, rules that sort of pertain to society, I guess, and we would think of them as sort of a universal type of rule, not things that are made up by governments per se. They tend to include those sort of things. We're talking about the basic ideas of rule in order for people to be able to exist together, and that's sort of society as a whole. Stability, power, protection. So power keeps coming up. Power is a common theme. It comes up over and over again. Um, Domination of the spirit over matter. I think that's an interesting point as well. And some of the symbols that help us get into um, these concepts. The emperor is holding a sphere in his left hand, and then this scepter in his right hand. The scepter varies depending on which, if it has a scepter at all in the deck you're looking at. It'll vary in style, and actually a lot of references point to this being either Venus or a universal symbol for the womb, and the emperor somehow having control over birth, which is a really tangled and complicated thing to think about and discuss. Um, but that does come up as a general theme in a lot of the references I looked at. An interesting color in this background. It's a little more maybe reddish than what's depicted by the camera here. We get it's and if, it's just going to depend on which version you're looking at too. So this is the Centennial, and it's a little bit muddied, whereas we have the distinct lines in this old no copyright 1971 version. But regardless, we're talking about a very interesting choice here by the folks that that selected the colors here, which my understanding is that wasn't Pixie who selected the colors per se. She did the line drawings, and but different publishers or different printers over the years, made changes to that. So, um, but anyway, that tends to be a sort of a foreboding thing when we see a red sky. But regardless, just also in the background have some strange looking mountains back here. They almost look like, if you look from here down and you don't see those tops, they almost look like additional robed figures. Um, there is some depiction of water below that seems sort of like a river running at the base of these mountains, and then maybe a sandy shore next to that. But the inclusion of water, the inclusion of mountains, the red sky, the red could be fire, and we have so a lot of different things going on here with the elements, and that takes us to the idea that the number four is intended to cover all elements, that it covers all seasons. The number four covers all cardinal points, all of the signs or suits of the tarot. So there's a lot going on here. The four principles, the four letters, for Yahweh or God's name. Um, so four being extremely important here. I see in the tarot, um, the large tarot reference book. There's a quote on page 271, regarding the emperor, and it says, "I am the beginning. I am action. I am completion. I am the result." So four things, four states of being, four stages in things. This has the sense of being a sort of pivotal character for sure, in the majors, and we also have an idea here that I thought was quite interesting with the Holy Trinity as a triangle, right? And the number four sometimes is considered to have significance because it is the Holy Trinity come to earth and then reflected. So what you get is a triangle, that is reflected with then another triangle. So you end up with basically a four pointed square, right? So that's the 4 points. So that would, and then there would be a line in the middle. So you have divinity at the top, and then you have the reflection of that at the bottom, making the 4 points, which would then be represented here by the emperor. Some of the other quotes that I thought were interesting, one in particular, the emperor can be considered the highest and most pure expression of the soul of the people or of a nation. So the highest and most pure expression. So rather than the emperor being a king per se that was chosen by God, these references are saying, because there is a lot of that comes into um, royalty in various societies, but this concept is supposed to predate those ideas of God being there being some sort of divine selection. It was more that the emperor rose to the symbolic leadership of the nation or of a people because they really were the purest expression of that group, which is I like that. I like that thought that someone, and I think we could think of this in either gender, because I don't think that really matters when we look historically and we see that leadership came, or in this case, some sort of emperor empress came in many different forms, and I think that idea of it being the purest expression of a people is really interesting and pretty powerful. I do really like that. So that's kind of a key takeaway for me here. It because it also then relies on that completion, that idea of four, that idea of um, encompassing all of the aspects of a certain society or way of being, uh, or a practice like tarot. It's the emperor represents all of the different conditions within tarot, the different suits, the different elements, and things like that. So that can take a lot of different interesting turns in a reading. I think there's a lot to run with there. And I pulled out some emperors from some different decks here that can help illustrate our points. The first one here is from La Corte de Tarocchi, and if you haven't seen it yet, Gerald from Tarot Stash and Ben from Beneficial Tarot and myself had a live on Gerald's channel the other day. Well, it was yesterday, at the time of this recording, and we covered this deck in a deck casual. So I will link that below, and I encourage you to go over to Gerald's channel, check that out for Tarot Stash, and like and subscribe. So, but we had a really interesting discussion about this deck. This is a beautiful handmade deck that is also now in its fourth edition, which is exciting because it's been out of stock for a long time. I purchased mine in the secondary market, but they've printed another edition of 2,000 copies, and you can get that at tarotarts.com. I'll link that as well. Beautiful deck. But we have some of the interesting symbols here. Um, and I think we still get some indications of what was covered by the symbolism in the Rider Waite, but there's a little less completion here. So, um, not quite as rich in the symbols, um, but still very interesting. Another here is from the Tarot of Mystical Moments, and I love this artwork and the idea of that palace or that giant city taking the place of the top of the emperor's head. Is that the crown? And he's earned his place, or he's been selected by his people as the purest expression of his group, maybe. um Enviable stash there for sure. And we have lots of layers going on here. We do have some mountains in the background. We have that bright that sun that seems to be centered behind. And there are some discussions about how the crown in the original, as you think about the emperor, you think about this gold color in this crown just glowing brighter and brighter as the symbols and the status become clear. So that's pretty interesting. And this is from the Santa Muerte tarot, which is new to me. So I thought I'd bring it out as part of this as well. But I think this is a fun card that also captures a lot of the symbols here. Don't know about the inclusion of that weapon there, but in fairness, I have not read the guidebook to find out what the story is. But that's a little rough. Then we have from Artisan Tarot, the Jean Dodal Tarot de Marseille. And here we have an old traditional scepter from Tarot de Marseille. We have the shield. We have the crossed legs. Crossed legs are considered to be important for the Emperor card in some respects, because that triangle we talked about as being the divinity. I'm sorry, the Trinity reflected on Earth. So the Trinity is the crossed legs. The crossed legs form a triangle that are then reflected. So the Emperor then becomes all of that. The Emperor becomes basically the Trinity and its reflection on Earth. So it's all four things at once. So that's where that kind of comes from. And then last for today, I brought out the Pacific Northwest Tarot. So mountain lion here. And in this, it's a very simple depiction. I do like the use of these compass rays, for lack of a better term, that we often see in the Pacific Northwest Tarot. It kind of gives focus to an area that I think the artist wanted to draw your attention to as part of the meaning or conveying the meaning. In this case, we have, we're basically on top of a mountain. Yeah, sure, there's another peak in the background, but we also have mountains in the RWS. But we have an apex predator here, and it's just comfortable where it sits and shows no sign of being disturbed by anything. It is just a pure expression of something that is in charge of everything, and no reason to question its station in life. So we have all four paws firmly planted on the ground. 4 comes up again there. So just another fun example of what we can do with the symbolism for the Emperor. So that's all I have for you today, folks. Kind of a short one on this episode, but in order to get through all the cards, there are going to be some like that. So I will roll the die for our next installment. So let's see where we go in the lower half of the majors this time. Okie dokie. So we have to roll again. Let's go. We could do, what we could do? Here's what we'll do. Instead of, because we already covered the High Priestess, we will take that to up to 12. We will do the Hanged Man. So that'll be episode number 4. So stay tuned for next time. And we'll do the Hanged Man. We'll cover several different cards and a whole bunch of different resources to find some different meanings there and some different understandings of what that card is for us. So thanks a lot for watching, everybody, and we'll see you on the next one.